Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good people. Yeah, you know what it is. Hard worker, scrappy, unfiltered, and sometimes unhinged football content. Hard to explain, but you know it when you see it. Doing it daily our way. I don't know what you're talking about right now. Redraft and Dynasty Fantasy Football, we got you covered. You know their defense is ranked like 31st in the NFL. NFL draft prospects and rookies. Now you know you in the right place for that.
Absolutely.
All right, then stop saying it. Then we're done. And prop bets with my man JRich. Count that money, man. Now wipe the crust out of your eyes. Get you a cup of coffee. It's time to wake your ass up with Ray G. You honestly are making absolutely no sense and you sound silly as hell. GMGP. Woo! It's draft day, baby. Yes, it is Thursday, April the 27th, 2023. Shout out to Fizzle Dollars on the intro song. Draft day, baby. Let's get it. Finally in the building. We are here. First round of the 2023 NFL draft tonight. And y'all know where to be, man. Right here, over here on Destination Devi. First round draft party. Myself, JRich, the best dynasty mind in the game, Scott Connor, the 4D boys, Mike and Adam. We'll see if Gene can get on. He's got a young man that was just born a couple of days ago. Jordan Backus, the whole DD crew. Maybe we'll have some special guests, but y'all know what it is. Make sure y'all tap in tonight. Jay, we're going like at
7:30 p.m. Eastern time.
There it is. Thank you for helping me out in the intro. 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, right here on the YouTube channel. I'm pumped. I'm excited. JRich, get in the building, baby. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It was a late night for both of us, sweating out our Destination Devi Draft Challenge. 51 total entries.
Yes.
And Ray, people who didn't see the thumbnail, we had Zach Galifianakis trying to figure out everything, all the math, all the equations, Will Levis, Peter Skoronski, Paris Johnson at 3, trading up for quarterbacks. What's Tennessee going to do? The Raiders. I don't know what's going to happen, Ray, but it is going to be madness. I've drawn this out so many ways. Is Levis going to? What's the cascade effect of that? Does Will Anderson go to? What's the effect of that? And it just gets worse and worse the further you go down the board. But I'm just excited because, one, the draft is finally here, and I think it's going to be absolute chaos, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it today, man. I don't want to play around, Jay. There's no news. There's no nothing. Let's just dive into it. Well, shout out to Underdog. First and foremost, shout out to Underdog Fantasy, man.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Shout out to
BBM4 coming soon.
Yeah, BBM4, 15 million in total prizes, biggest tournament yet. So we will be talking about and discussing some Underdog drafts and Best Ball Mania 4 over on the draft stream as well. And I'm telling you, we got some dope tools. Jay, you put together some really, really nice tools to help people navigate their drafts. We share that with all of our patrons who are subscribed at that tier. So if you do use the promo code WAKEUP, if you're a first-time depositor, not only do you get your money matched by Underdog, but you also get access to the Discord and all the tools, all the scoring matrices that Dynasty Barry, Koopa Troopa. We got a bunch of people in the chat dropping dope information to help you take down that tournament and walk away a freaking millionaire, baby. Jay, I'm feeling it. I feel like
$3 million up top.
We're going to have somebody from DD in the money. I promise you that. So make sure you join in. But, Jay, let's just get right to it, man. Draft is tonight. You're doing the same thing that I'm doing. We're checking the money. We're looking at Vegas odds. We're watching Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport and all these people, Jay. And I called you last night and I said, look, man, you know, I want us to kind of talk through today, call our shot, right? And we're going to be dead ass wrong come Monday morning, right? We're going to be wrong come Monday morning. But I wanted us to call our shot on some of the rookies that we think are going to really impress coming out of this draft this weekend that aren't the top rookies, like not Bijan Robinson or JSN, some veterans that you think are going to be nuked after this weekend, and with some veterans that you think are going to slide through the cracks and be safe, right? Every year, it's not only the people that are going to get replaced and how their values change, but it's also the guys that don't get replaced, and they do get the opportunity, or at least it appears that they're going to have the opportunity to score us points all season long. So we're going to talk through a couple of these things. One final housekeeping thing, Jay. Everybody out there that rocks with us, that supports us, make sure you tap in this weekend. I know my day is on Sunday, but I will be doing a full stream over on Bleacher Report breaking down the Dallas Cowboys draft. And that is, I think it's at 6 o'clock on Saturday night, 6:30 Saturday night Eastern time. And I know you got a power ranking show with Bleacher Report as well. Is that Sunday?
Yeah, it's supposed to be Sunday at noon. I'm supposed to be power ranking the whole NFL. So I'll basically be doing a full, to some degree, draft reaction. Did teams address their needs? How would I re-rank the teams after the draft? And it will probably be madness, because I'm sure everyone will be pissed off. Everyone in the bottom 10 will be pissed off, and everyone in the top 10 will say they should have been higher. So I'm sure the comments will be flooded with tons of fun on that stream. But yeah, it's supposed to be at noon on Sunday, I believe.
Okay, so make sure you tap in, download the Bleacher Report app, and watch JRich and I on Bleacher Report this weekend. I got a question real quick, Jay, from Stanley, my man Stanley. Stanley, I got to give you some love today, Stanley.
Let's go.
I got to give Stanley has been Team Hendon Hooker all draft, all college football season. And damn it, Stanley, finally, today, it feels like your boy Hendon Hooker is going to get the draft capital that you so desire. So I just want to say shout out to you, Stanley. You've been Team Hendon Hooker in this chat, part of this community from day one, so it's probably going to end well for you tonight. Jay, but he asked me what's the highest percentage drafted player by percentage for me, and I entered 75 entries into the pre-draft Superflex contest. And my highest owned player from that, I'll tell you right now, Stanley, I believe it's Alvin Kamara. So I've got 75 entries and exposure chart. Highest rostered player, Alvin Kamara. 43.2% of my teams have AK-41. Don't care that he's going to miss the first 6 games, 4 games, 2 games, maybe 0 games if I get him for the back half of the season in this pre-draft tournament. Now, my strategy may change a little bit with BBM4, but Alvin Kamara is my highest rostered running back. Justin Herbert, my highest rostered. He and Patrick Mahomes tied for my highest rostered quarterbacks in Superflex, 19%. Damn. Wide receiver, Isaiah Hodgins and Christian Watson are my 2 highest owned receivers. And tight ends, Jay, got 31% exposure to Dalton Kincaid. I mean, I'm late round tight end guys. So there goes that since Stanley asked, and I want
to rookie tight ends. Not a fruitful exercise most of the time. So we'll see how it works out for you. Bold strategy, Cotton.
Dalton Schultz is number 2. So there we go. So I got some. I
think he'll be fine.
I got Dalton
Schultz.
I think he'll be fine. I got Dalton Schultz at 2. All right,
Houston.
All right, Jay, who's going number 2? Let's just get right to it. Bryce Young's going 1. We're not spending any time. We're not talking about that. He's going 1. Who's going 2? Call your shot. We did a draft challenge. You had to put the shit in, pick the player to the team. Who's Houston taking at 2, Jay? We're just going through the top 5, and then we'll talk about some other stuff.
So I still think it's Levis, and that's even with the potential trade out possibility. It doesn't seem like Houston's going to trade out. It seems like they're going to pick. Right now it's between Will Anderson, Levis, Tyree Wilson, and then sort of CJ Stroud. But Wilson's been the guy who's been slipping. Anderson is now the favorite to be the first defensive player taken, which is a surprise because that's not something we've been seeing pretty much all week. I think it's going to be Levis, though. That's where my money is. But Anderson getting steam is definitely annoying because I have him as first defensive player drafted, but I don't have him at number 2. Ray, how do you feel about Anderson at 2, or do you think that Houston has the nuts to go and take Will Levis at 2? Because it seems like he's still pretty high on their board.
Okay, here's what I said. We'll get to Aaron Rodgers in a minute. Don't worry. We got Aaron Rodgers on the show sheet. Here's the thing. He got traded to the Jets. We knew it was going to happen. Good for Rodgers. He said he's going to play more years. Good for Rodgers. We'll talk about it a little bit later. I honestly don't know, Jay. I don't know who I put for Houston for the draft challenge. I think I put Will Levis to Houston. If they pass on a quarterback, man, you just can't F around and find out, man. They better be committed to finishing bad enough this year that they land preferably Caleb Williams, but Drake May at worst. And I just don't know how I guess if you really commit to it, man, but D'Amico Ryans doesn't strike me as one that wants to go out there and lose. Jay, that wants to do that. Yet, did you see the tweet that the Houston Texans put out the other day? Did you see the tweet? Oh, yeah,
they're one in Gothic Sans, MS, or whatever the font was.
Gothic Sans font. And where's this shit at from Houston? Did they take? Here it is right here. Let's pull this up, Jay. Let's just take a look at old Houston right here. Failure is not an option. It's a necessity. I kind of agree to a degree. Yeah. Every misstep is a lesson learned. Every setback, a chance to grow stronger. Embrace the struggle and become unstoppable.
What does it mean, Ray? Are they on the up or are they tanking? And then I'm sure you saw it.
You tell me what this shit means.
You saw Levis has that same font on the bicep, right?
I saw he's got the same Gothic Sans font.
Yeah. I don't know what it means.
What does this mean?
But he's got the font. I don't know, because again, when you tweeted it out and you saw it, you were like, oh, they're in on Caleb. Like, they're tanking for Caleb. They're taking Will Anderson. All the reports are it's not going to be a quarterback. But still, Will Levis is gaining steam. Still, he's the guy that might go number 2, might go number 1, apparently, according to Reddit. And it's just, nobody knows what's going on. And then you saw the Panthers also released a big little video. It was a little poem with Luke Kuechly. That was really cool to see that. But what is Houston doing? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. No one knows what Arizona's doing. The draft starts at 2. I think it's Levis, though. I don't think it's going to be Anderson. I just don't know how many years they can continue to tank and not take a shot. And if Levis is really bad, they'll be in the running for a QB again anyways. And they have the capital to go and make a move if they want to do that.
So Scott Connor, shout out to Scott. He mentioned this in our Discord, Jay. If the Houston Texans take JRich, which they won't, but if they take Anthony Richardson at 2, you can't turn right back around next year if he's bad and be like, okay, we're going to take, like, you should have known that he probably needed a little time to develop, right? You can't take him at 2 and then it not work out year 1 and then you give up on him. Like, what's the point of taking JRich? The quarterback that it feels like they can do that with is Will Levis, because think about this. Yep. Let's just vibe with me here, Jay. They draft Will Levis. Nobody likes him anyway. Nobody likes Will Levis outside of old white owners. Those are the only people who likes Will Levis. Old men in high places in the NFL. The only people that like Levis. He stinks it up, Jay. Yep. Stinks it up. Would anybody in Houston be upset if they re-rolled for Caleb Williams or Drake May in 2024? Would a single soul be like, man, we got to keep that Will Levis? They'd be fine with it, Jay. They'd be fine with it. He's the quarterback that they can draft that won't, if he doesn't perform well, they could replace his ass like Arizona did Josh Rosen a couple of years ago. You can't do that with Stroud. You can't do that with Stroud. You can't do that with JRich. You wouldn't do that with Bryce Young. Will Levis, you can do that with. So it feels like that is who I think that they're going to take at number 2. We'll see, man. We'll see. It's not what I would do. I would embrace the tank, take Will Anderson, and I would just be like, we got to suck it up and we got to get Caleb. Get JSN at 12, get Caleb in 24. I wouldn't do it, but there you go.
I have a question for you, though. Do you think they take a quarterback at 12? Because the biggest problem for them with 12 is that they probably have to hop Tennessee at 11. And so it's a crappy spot to be in if they wanted to pass on quarterback at 2 and try and get one at 12, because chances are they'll all be gone by the time that Tennessee picks at 11. Unless, of course, like I mentioned, they do trade up. But yeah, it seems like if they don't go quarterback at 2, they're probably not going quarterback at all, unless for some reason they were in on Hendon Hooker, like back of the first, maybe early second if they got lucky. But he seems like he's locked in for the first round. But I have seen that floated around. And at least for my draft challenge and kind of the way that I charted it out, I don't see any world where the quarterbacks are there at 12, unless maybe it's JRich, but I still don't really see that happening. I think the QBs are going to be there, are going to be gone early. We've talked about it. I think Levis probably goes to Indy at 4. I'm curious your thoughts, though.
You said Levis goes to Indy?
Or sorry, Stroud going to Indy at 4. But I'm curious for you is, do you think the Cardinals trade out? That's to me the biggest question. Do you think they trade out? And what would your odds be for them to actually trade out? And if they don't trade out, who is the pick?
I think they want to trade out, no doubt about it. Sitting at number 3, they're kind of in no man's land, and they're in a premium spot where there are a bunch of teams who want a quarterback. So I can definitely see Arizona saying, who wants this spot? We have no problem moving back. We don't have a complete roster anyway, so there's no one player that's going to make or break our season. Maybe they could stack as much asset capital as they can and take a step back. Let a team like Tennessee, there's rumors that Minnesota could jump up to 3, Jay, and take Will Levis. The Tennessee Titans are rumored. And then every single year, there's a dark horse team that we're not thinking about. Did anybody call the New Orleans Saints moving up to take Jameson Williams? to take Chris Olave,
yeah.
Or the Lions moving up to take J-Mo. Like, no one saw those things happening. So there will be a couple of moves or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 that happened tonight that nobody was expecting. The Cincinnati Bengals, my God, trade up and take Will Anderson. You don't know. I think this is one
even
of
the Eagles are one of those teams as well who trade up to 3.
Yeah, this is one of the most unpredictable, and it wasn't like this last year. Last year it was a little shock when the QB slid, but there were a lot of skill position players that you knew Sauce was going to the Jets. You knew Stingley was going to go high. You knew Trayvon Walker back in 20. Like, you knew some of these guys were kind of penciled in and slotted. It's literally nothing, Jay. After Bryce Young, nothing makes consensus sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
nothing. 2 through 4 is an absolute crapshoot. Will Anderson, the favorite at 2. Paris Johnson, Ray. Why is Paris Johnson the favorite at 3? Like, I don't get it. He could be a great tackle, but why wouldn't you just take Will Anderson if he's there, right? Like, if they're staring down the barrel of Paris Johnson or Will Anderson because Levis goes at 2, how are they passing on Will Anderson to take Paris Johnson? I don't see how that makes sense, and he's the only tackle that's projected to go that high. You go to 4, it's Stroud or it's Levis. Whichever one is there, assuming one of them is there, that's who Indy's going to take. But Ray, locked in at 5, though, and we talked about this when we did the Bleacher Report draft, Jalen Carter, minus 250 to go to Seattle. Is there any world where they pick a player who's not Jalen Carter at 5?
Maybe JRich if he's there, but...
Should be
if I'm Seattle and you get that caliber of defensive tackle, some say he's the best overall player in this draft. Jalen Carter at 5, and you add him to that Seattle defense that needs interior D-line help. You hit a home run with Tariq Woolen in your secondary. You get Quandre Diggs a year removed from his injury. You bring back B-Wags. They still need some edge rushers, but you can kind of find that later throughout the draft. That'd be a home run pick for Seattle. And they've been doing a great job last couple of years of drafting. So Jalen Carter at 5, I think, I don't want to say anything locked in, but it doesn't seem like he's going to go 2, 3, or 4. So I do believe if he's there at 5, the Seattle Seahawks would take him, and that'd be a great pick for the Seahawks. Jay, we kind of talked last night. I want to get your take, Jay. Running back position. Let's leave quarterback alone for a second. Give me your guy, the player that you think is going to be a success for fantasy. Like the guy that if you had to put your claim on Ray, I think this player is going to be a good player. You can't name Bijan Robinson, no Jahmyr Gibbs, no Zach Charbonnet. You're one running back in this class that after this draft weekend, you feel confident in the skill set, the projected draft capital, and the opportunity that this player is going to be a good player for us in fantasy football. Who's that one running back for you?
For me, it's Kendre Miller, the running back out of TCU. I told you before the show that I was doing a lot of research on top 30 visits, and he got a ton. Now, granted, he didn't do any testing, so I'm sure they were trying to check him out, ask him some more questions, things like that, maybe try and get him to do a little bit of a private workout. But overall, I think he's the guy that, for whatever reason, has really flown under the radar, except for in our circle, right? We love Kendre, and we've been talking about him forever, and you did a film session on him so long ago. Yep. And to me, right now, he projects as an early third-round pick, and I think based on what we're seeing, that would be great draft capital because we don't see even a Tajay Spears. We might see a Zach Charbonnet there. We might see an Achane, but like that could be RB4 off the board if he's at the top of the third. And so I think he's the guy, prototypical size, has the speed, has the workload, can catch passes, can develop further in that area. I think if I was to peg anybody, he would probably be the guy. I think I could easily say Charbonnet, but that sounds a little bit too easy because of the way he dominated in the Pac-12. But I think that what we've seen from Kendre is a very similar skill set with the build to be a 60%er in the NFL. Who would be your running back that you would stake your claim on?
Yeah, man. So I've been sort of just kind of watching and reading some reports and I've got my rankings all finalized, right? I did those like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. But yesterday, if people in the DD community were paying attention, I made some tweaks to my final pre-draft rankings. I moved Hendon Hooker up inside my top 10. I dropped Tajay Spears down a little bit, Jay. Little concerned about the report that he has no ACL.
Oh, it's just Bruce Bowen out here.
I'm no doctor, but that seems suboptimal. I still like Tajay Spears. I still have him inside my top 10, but I did move him down a little bit. Kendre Miller is RB4 for me in the class, Jay. But if I'm gonna go out on a limb here, Jay, and a player who meets none of the requisite thresholds that we've talked about, none of the 60%, maybe in the best case world, a high-end 40%er. But Jay, I go back to the film, I go back to the talent, I go back to the speed, and I go back to the idea that the NFL is changing and evolving a little bit. So Lord have mercy. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. I'm doing it again. I'm going back to the Texas A&M well, and I do think in the right league, in the right format, I think Devon Achane is going to be all right, man. I really do, Jay. I can't see him getting 20, 30 carries in a game, but he's very good. Like there's nobody that I respect that I've seen them talk about Achane and how he plays the game that thinks he's bad. Everyone just says he's small. You're not going to be able to use him in a 3-down. I don't care. Yeah. Just give me the 8 to 10 touches, Achane. Make the most of them. Be Tony Pollard light. Be that guy for me, Jay. So I do think he's going to get I think he's still going to get drafted a little higher than people think. Day 2 capital, I think that will be there for Devon Achane. And his skill set, his speed, his ability to win. And the good thing about Achane is he's not just a running, like turnaround handing the ball like Dwayne McBride. You can scheme him in the receiving game. So even though he's down a little bit lower for me, I got him at RB9. So hear me out. I'm not telling anybody to draft him as RB3. I would take Izzy Abanikanda over him. I would take Roshan Johnson over him. I'd take Tank Bigsby and Kendre Miller over Devon Achane. But I still like the skill set and talent of Devon Achane at cost. We're not drafting him at the 201 or at the 111 or 112 anymore. So at cost, I'm still willing to sprinkle a little bit on Devon Achane. I'm still in, Jay. I'm doing it again, damn it. I'm doing it again. Do you want to know who his most popular draft slot was in the draft challenge? Who's that?
You could probably guess for Achane.
Was it Dallas?
No, but Dallas was a very popular pick, go figure, for pretty much anybody. Michael Mayer, Kendre Miller, Roshan Johnson.
Who
it was Miami.
Miami. Okay.
Miami.
I don't know. I don't know.
Now Dalvin Cook is headed there.
Dalvin Cook's going to Miami?
He wants to go to Miami. So what's crazy is that, we're going to talk about veterans who are on red alert, and basically all of the Miami running backs are now on red alert because it doesn't seem like Dalvin Cook's going to be a Viking. Seems like he wants to go to Miami. They talked about Buffalo, but he doesn't want to take away from his brother. Makes sense there. Pretty good brother in that regard. But going to Miami, he said and came out and said, I want to play in Miami, and it's just kind of whether or not that ultimately happens. But Ray, I think whether you want to move on to another position, because we haven't talked about the Falcons yet and what they're going to do. Do you want to talk about Falcons now? We haven't talked about Bijan at all.
Let's do this. Let's stick with running backs. So we went to college running back that you want to stake your claim on. You think will still be good. That will have a boom kind of rise after the draft. Give me the NFL veteran who is going to be the biggest loser at the running back position after this weekend's draft. Who is the biggest loser after this weekend's NFL draft at running back? Who is it? Who's it going to be?
It's very difficult to not say Tyler Algier.
That's low.
It's low-hanging fruit. But the reality is, all these running backs need to be on notice. I think Javonte Williams needs to be on notice. I think that Jamal Williams needs to be on notice. Like, if you're an older running back, you are on notice unless you're Christian McCaffrey, you're Saquon Barkley.
Who's getting nuked?
It's Algier, man. It's Algier. Plus 150 for Bijan Robinson to go to Atlanta. I don't want it to happen. I didn't predict it to happen. But if anybody could get nuked entirely, value gone, it's him. It's absolutely going to be him. We've talked about Bijan going to Washington. I don't think that nukes Brian Robinson. Robinson didn't have a ton of value to begin with. But if Bijan Robinson goes to Atlanta, absolutely nuked. Robert's saying Rashad Penny, if the Eagles draft Bijan or if they take Gibbs, I still don't even think in that situation, he gets nuked. Mixon's kind of already gone to me, so.
I've got two guys. I think Rachaad White is definitely on notice in Tampa Bay. I think
he'd be my number 2.
I think Rachaad White's on legit notice this weekend. And I would also say, Jay, Khalil Herbert, in the steam that he's getting right now to be some bell cow 60%er, I'm not buying it. I think Rachaad White and Khalil Herbert managers, their assholes are puckered up tight this weekend, and they are praying that one of these talented backs like a Kendre Miller, like a Tank Bigsby, like an Achane, that they avoid those spots. I think everybody, I don't know, because Atlanta's got to do it at 8, Jay. They've got to. Here's the thing. It would be good.
It would be an awful pick.
It would be good for Desmond Ridder. It'd be good for Ridder.
Yeah.
Bijan and that, they've got a good offensive line. They've got 2 big-bodied, target-commanding weapons on the outside. And then Bijan Robinson would have a running mate in Algier, because I don't think that they would turn around and just be like, all right, you're getting the ball 40 times a game in Algier, you're not going to touch it. It'd be a nice combination, right? It'd be a nice tandem. You keep Robinson fresh. But I think Rachaad White's definitely on notice this weekend, Jay. No doubt about it, man. Rachaad White is on notice.
That's my Bijan spot.
Is Tampa Bay?
That's my Bijan spot. Is Tampa Bay. It was hard for me because for me it's you look at what's around that spot. If he slips through the top 10, other teams need tackles, they need edge rushers, and then maybe the Pats take him, maybe Washington does. But I thought Tampa Bay is probably where the slide would stop, and because they're going nowhere, they just go BPA and take Bijan Robinson.
All right, Jay, let's go wide receivers. Who's your wide receiver from this class that's going to get drafted? You want to stake your claim on, and I'm not even saying this is your favorite prospect, but a guy that you think is going to be good, that may be a little bit underrated, under-talked about, the community doesn't like, but you think the capital is going to be there, and you believe in the talent of the player. So when you look at this rookie class, what wide receiver would that be for you? And if you want, I could start with the guy that's kind of been crapped on the entire time, but I think he's going to have a chance to be pretty good, and the capital should be there. Jalen Hyatt, man. I think Jalen Hyatt is one that, no, he did not run this 4.2 40-yard dash. But Hyatt, at worst, is going to be a second-round pick. I think he's going to get the top 50 capital. He does have a unique skill set that can be utilized in the right offense. I know there was some NFL Next Gen stats done on him and his 40 in particular.
Or third fastest 40 of all the players he ran.
Top
players,
speed. Top speed, 24 miles an hour for Jalen Hyatt. So once he got going in that turnover, those legs started to turn over. There are only 2 players at the combine that were faster than Jalen Hyatt. He is, and you watch the tape, I don't give a damn what you say about anything about Hyatt. His ball tracking skills, one of the absolute best in the class. Like his just ability to locate the ball, track it down, bring it in, incredible, right? He's got that mentality that I'm kind of looking for. Now, he's not my top wide receiver. Got him right outside of my top 5, but Jalen Hyatt is one that, even though the community's, I'm seeing people take Kayshon Boutte over Jalen Hyatt. I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, what are we doing, man? This isn't 2018, 2019. What are we doing? But Jalen Hyatt is one that I think when we walk away from this draft, not only will the requisite capital be there for us to have to pay attention to for fantasy, but the skill set is there. He's a talented player. He's not a complete player today. It's not the picture is not all the way painted, but there's still a lot of potential and growth in that prospect. So I like Jalen Hyatt a little more than others, Jay. And I think after this weekend, I'm going to have to put some respect on his name, baby. Put some respect on his name. Think it's going to be there for Hyatt. Who's your guy?
Mine's tough because the problem with the receivers is that, like you mentioned, there's probably like 2 or 3 guys who could be fantasy relevant who are, not quite first rounders, more second rounders. But I keep going back to the Senior Bowl, Ray, and I can't get this player out of my mind.
Oh gosh.
Because
here we go.
I'm not going
here
where you think I'm going. He's already gone from the bottom to the top. But when we went to the Senior Bowl practices, first practice, I forget whether it was the American or the national team. That doesn't matter. There was 2 players who were out on the field first every time. It was Michael Wilson and Elijah Higgins. And I watched Michael Wilson do footwork drills for probably half an hour before he started every practice. And while he's not projected to go high, he's a guy who legitimately has the feet and the skill set to play outside in the NFL. And that was not something anybody was saying before they saw him at the Senior Bowl. He continued to rise through the combine process. He's interviewed well. He's a guy who's probably not going to be overly fantasy relevant. But once you get past Cedric Tillman and Jonathan Mingo, who may be second-round picks, and people talk about them as potential first-rounders, I think Wilson could be the next X receiver who really plays on the outside that can dominate at the NFL level. Like I mentioned, fantasy-wise, we'll see. But what I saw is a player who just has inconsistent hands, but uses his body well, has a great release package, and can actually win against NFL players. It's not so much for fantasy, but I think in the NFL, wherever he gets drafted, I think he's going to make an impact for that team. And so we'll see if he can be fantasy relevant, but I would definitely be on the watch for him on waivers and stuff because his talent showed itself at the Senior Bowl, at the Combine, and you can't say that about all these players. Rashee Rice, very inconsistent. Wilson was a player that was consistently rising. I could have went Jaden Reed, but I think going for a big body receiver like Wilson, who has a ton of ability, especially with his feet, which I really value, I think him over Mingo makes a lot of sense for a player that I would put my bet on because his feet are so good. I think that's how he's going to win at the NFL level.
It's a little different question when you're saying a wide receiver's value getting shot or a wide receiver's value getting nuked. It's tough because so many NFL teams, their base formation are 3 wide receiver sets. We know that it's just tough to support like 3 fantasy relevant wide receivers consistently. It doesn't mean you can't get the spike week out of Tyler Boyd, playing next to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but consistent fantasy production from receiver. I don't think any one guy from this class is going to nuke somebody's individual value at receiver. But, Jay, I'm going to throw 2 scenarios out there for you. And the biggest one that I'm thinking about, the big wide receiver loser, and we might be able to identify that loser here in the next couple of hours, plays on a team in the NFC North, Jay. It's Jameson Williams.
Oh.
So here's what I'm thinking. Vibe with me here. Lions traded up to get their boy J-Mo last year, right? Traded up to get J-Mo. They got J-Mo. You pair him with Amon-Ra. They go in the season with TJ Hawkinson. We all know Hawkinson gets traded to the Vikings, and it's Amon-Ra, St. Brown for the most part. Khalif Raymond, some DJ Chark out there, but it's Amon-Ra and a whole lot of nothing. And you've got Jared Goff out there lighting it up in that Ben Johnson scheme. Lighting it. Jared Goff about to get a goddamn extension after this year, after he leads the Lions to the play. Everybody who got Goff on the low last offseason, good for you.
Feeling good.
But I'm pretty sure, Jay, that the Detroit Lions were banking on rolling into this season, starting off hot with Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams as their 2 bookend wide receivers. J-Mo's not going to be there because he decided to gamble on team facility, right? And then can't even read the room and goes on IG Live or whatever he did, and he's placing more bets, right? Not illegal, not against the rules, but it's just kind of like, dude.
Optics.
Right. You just got caught cheating. Maybe you shouldn't ask for that fella's trip in Brazil. You just got caught cheating. Maybe the next weekend you shouldn't be like, honey, me and the boys, we're going to go to Brazil for a week. Trust me, just don't do it, J-Mo. Like, read the room, right? So right now, Detroit, Jay, there's no DJ Chark, right? No DJ Chark. They lost Khalif Raymond. And I'm just throwing out Quintez Cephas cut and gone. I don't even know if he was still with the Lions.
They got Marvin Jones, I think, is the only other guy
Marvin Jones. Amon-Ra. If the Lions take a wide receiver in round 1, Jay, what does that tell you about J-Mo?
Oh, I think they're pretty sick of him, probably, right? I think the funny part is, Ray, is if they really felt so bold, they could take Hyatt at 18. I don't think they would. I think they'd go another direction, but I mean, they're probably not going to take Zay Flowers. They're probably not going to take Addison. I think that just takes away from Amon-Ra, the only
Quentin
player
Johnston?
who kind of
QJ?
Maybe, right?
QJ?
But if you just want a player who can replace that elite speed right away, that's Hyatt, right? It just depends on what they want with J-Mo. I don't think they're done with him. But even if they did go after Kincaid or Mayer, I think that would take away from J-Mo as well, right? Because those guys could get going early in the season, become that target, 2-3 in the offense, and all of a sudden J-Mo isn't that bona fide number 2 because he's got to walk in late. He's got to figure it out. And even when he came back last season, he was sort of used, sort of not used. He's still riding this hype of the 12th overall pick, supreme talent, but now he's suspended and he's not going to be playing. So I'm curious how they operate. I don't think they'll go receiver, but you're right. If they take one, it says a lot about how they feel about that player. And I think that's a great segue into my receiver that I think could get nuked a little bit. And that's Gabe Davis. Because for everything that Gabe Davis is, he really hasn't performed very well. And I know Josh Allen defended him this offseason saying they need to find creative ways to get him the ball not down the field, get the ball in his hands, showcase his yak ability. But every now and then you'll see QJ mocked to the Bills. And I'm like, okay, so we have this big body receiver who can get downfield, and then they go and draft the same receiver in the draft because QJ was up high. Now he's falling a little bit. Seems like he could be a second rounder unless for some reason he goes to the Bills. And then you're like, okay, how much do they really believe in Gabe Davis if they go and take Quinn Johnston? And I think Josh Allen would love him. He's a better yak receiver. I think he could be better down the field. He's a little bit faster. Everything that Gabe Davis does well, I think QJ can replace. And at that point, he would be very expendable. And if that actually happened, it's always the new shiny toy, and Gabe Davis's value would probably nuke. It could be a buying opportunity, but the long-term prospect of Davis on the Bills, I think, would be just about gone at that point because QJ would be his immediate replacement, and there's no reason to re-sign him after that.
I see a lot of people talking about Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman is one that can get nuked this weekend as well. And
for sure.
I feel like he's already... I think
he's already nuked? Yeah, a little bit. His value is so far down. So far down.
It's unfortunate because I think we all like Rashad Bateman, but your best ability is availability. They went out, they give Odell Beckham 18 M's. I know it's like 15, but he's gonna
15 guaranteed, yeah.
He's gonna get the minuscule escalators in his. He's gonna hit those numbers, and they're already pumping for like DeAndre Hopkins. There's so many receivers reportedly going to Baltimore via these mocks. A little worried about literally nuked, literally.
Yeah,
so
could be.
We'll see. Is Bateman a buy, Mike?
No.
What are you buying? What are you buying a wide receiver 2 for? Like, no thanks. There's so many different theories to roster construction, but I'm not out there like actively trying to buy Rashad Bateman for his 13 points a game. No, thank you. Jay, let's move on to the tight end position. And I really don't want to, they're tight ends, right? So you've got all these guys, the Mayers, the Laportas, the Washingtons, the Musgraves, Tucker Kraft, Dalton Kincaid. Who's the one that you really, truly are like, you know what, at cost, I'm going to have a lot of this tight end in fantasy?
It's Laporta, 100%. For everything that people don't think that he is, third highest PFF receiving grade in the class, led the team in receptions and yards for the past 2 seasons at Iowa, and Iowa was god-awful. He leads the class in forced missed tackles in 21 with 20, thirds in yards per route run behind Mayer and Kincaid. His knock really is just his size. He's still got a 9.0 RAS score, but he's only 6'3 and a half and like 245 pounds, which again, somehow is below average for tight ends. I just think that he's going to be a guy who can make an impact and truly earn targets and dominated in the Big Ten. And, for everything that Mayer is, in a lot of ways, Laporta did the same thing. He led his team in receiving, in receptions. The touchdowns weren't really there, but they really struggled on offense this year. He was still able to move the chains, still showed he could dominate a touch load. So I think if you're a team drafting him, and there's a lot of buzz potentially him going first round, that would be the guy that isn't Mayer or Kincaid who I would call my shot on. I get Darnell Washington's going to get drafted high. Part of that is because he's such a great blocker, but Laporta can still do it all. And of course, Ray, that Iowa tight end group just continues to shine in the NFL. I'm happy to ride that train. It may seem a little bit like, I'm riding the Iowa train, but it hasn't failed us for a while. So I'm willing to do that yet again with Iowa Hawkeye tight ends.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like Laporta. For me, Tucker Kraft is one at cost that I'll probably have a lot of Tucker Kraft. I think is going to get day 2 capital. He's got the requisite size to play inline. He's more than athletic enough to be a move tight end, flex him out wide. And he's sort of kind of the forgotten name. Everyone talks about Washington, Laporta, Mayer, Kincaid, Musgrave.
Yeah, for sure.
There are a lot of people out there who are not in on old Luke Musgrave. He's big and athletic, but no kind of missed tackles forced. He's not very physical. There are a lot of people who are just kind of lukewarm on Luke Musgrave, no pun intended. But Tucker Kraft, I'm a big fan of his game, man. You look at the tape, you look at the athleticism, then I just think that he's the kind of guy that no one's really talking about. You can get him tight end premium leagues in the 3rd round. If I have to spend a first rounder or Dalton Kincaid and Tucker Kraft gets picked 20 spots after him, 30 spots after him in the draft, and I can get him 2 rounds later, sign me up for Tucker Kraft. So I'm a big Tucker Kraft fan. I'll probably have a lot of him. I think he's going to be a really solid tight end. We'll see. I mean, maybe kind of reminds me of Robert Tonyan if Robert Tonyan had capital. If Tonyan had capital, right, and people actually liked him, it would be Tucker Kraft. Yeah, Ricardo, I like Darnell Washington as well. And, of course, we like the other guys, Jay. What tight end do you think, and I don't, again, on notice, I don't really know what that even – I don't know what tight end could be on notice, but who could receive? What's a tight end that we've been buying this offseason thinking that they could be a guy, right? And then the team turns around and says, no, sir, we went with this guy. There's an obvious low-hanging fruit answer. Go ahead and say it. I'll let you take it. Go ahead.
Okay, so not to be replaced, but everything you're saying to me points directly at Kyle Pitts. It points directly at Kyle Pitts to me. I know,
Jay.
I know, Ray. I know what you're gonna say.
Oh God.
For me, and I'll say this on the show. Kyle Pitts is on notice for me. Everyone wants Kyle Pitts to be this dominant tight end, come in, demand all these targets, 4th overall pick. Ray, how bad is that pick looking right now? How bad is that pick looking right now? They take Kyle Pitts. Oh, but he had 1,000 yards receiving as a rookie. They go and draft Drake London. Now, what if they come back? And they draft another receiver?
I don't even want to be on the screen for this. Go ahead.
I'm just saying. They go in, they draft another receiver. All of a sudden, Kyle Pitts is not the number 2 option in this offense because maybe Cedric Tillman could be the number 2. I'm just telling you, Ray, the Falcons need weapons. They are going to draft players, and I don't think that is good for Kyle Pitts. Because he's not the alpha. I've been saying this since they drafted Drake London. He is the alpha. He will command the most targets. It will not be Kyle Pitts. And so if you are not the alpha in a Desmond Ridder offense, where is your value? And if they draft receivers, that's only going to create more target competition for players who aren't Drake London. That's just my opinion. You guys can disagree, but this is how I feel. Everyone wants Kyle Pitts to be this great player, and I think he's a great player, but they continue to not utilize him. And that's why I'm not all the way in on him as like tight end 3, tight end 4, because he hasn't shown us that he can demand targets on a bad team with no weapons. He hasn't done enough. Right? Like who's in their right mind taking Kyle Pitts over?
He got hurt. Like Jay,
even when he played, he wasn't getting targets.
He was,
and he's not the number 1.
He was getting targeted. He was being overthrown by Mariota every single game. He had 1,000 yards as a rookie, Jay. As a rookie with no quarterback, he had 1,000 yards.
And he was the only player there. Evan Ingram had a great rookie season too. You remember that season?
Okay. My tight end.
I'm just saying.
My tight end.
He's got to show me something.
My tight end. It's Jake Ferguson. It's Jake Ferguson. That's why I said the low hanging fruit because I think it's Jake Ferguson, man. I do not. I repeat, I'm a Cowboys fan doing the Bleacher Report Cowboys reaction stream on Saturday night. I do not want the Cowboys to draft the tight end in round 1, but I got a weird feeling, Jay, that if Mayer's there, if Kincaid fell, which I don't think he will, that Dallas would take him. And I know for us, we play in, and I'm telling y'all, I'm just going to jam it down your throat today. Auction. Stop doing dynasty startups via Snake. Auction. From here on out, I'm not talking about a freaking ADP. We're talking auction startup dollars from $1,000 budget. Jake Ferguson, Jay. People were spending $30, $40 in auctions to get Jake Ferguson, man. To get Jake Ferguson in DD leagues. I like Jake Ferguson, but Jake Ferguson wouldn't stop me from drafting Michael Mayer. And I think he's the one that a lot of people have invested some hope into, thinking that they can get that next Dallas tight end, which it's a fruitful position for fantasy, man. Even whether it was people thought it would be Blake Jarwin 1 minute, and I'm like, is Dalton Schultz the next? You had a top 5 tight end production-wise with Dalton Schultz. It's a fruitful position in fantasy, but I do believe that Jake Ferguson, his ass is puckered up. He is sitting patiently, especially tonight and early tomorrow, for Dallas not to draft a Kincaid, a Laporta, a Musgrave, a Washington. Little nervous about about Jake Ferguson in Dallas, Jay. Just a tad bit. I think that's one who, and if they draft a tight end in round 1, his value is shot. Over. It's whatever you could get for him as a trade piece, as a throw-in. I think Jake Ferguson is that one that needs to be on notice right now, Jay. All right, we got a couple of super chat questions. Let's hit those up really quick, man. AJ, appreciate the super chat. Happy draft day, Raise the GOAT. Can't wait to see these landing spots. I have the first 5 picks in a row this year. Holy moly. That's nice, AJ. Yeah, damn. 5 picks in a row. Let's see right here. David from across the pond. What's up, David? Can we add further spice to a challenge prop bet? Whoever gets the lowest between Ray and Jay shaves off their mustachio for next week.
Yeah, I could do that. That's not that bad.
Bro, I got a bald head. If I shave off my mustache,
you can barely see your mustache.
If I shave it off, I'm milk dud status, and I don't want to be milk dud status walking around, man. I don't want to be a walking whopper. I don't want to be a walking whopper out here, Jay. I
mean, David paid for it. He paid $10 for that.
You don't ever pay your bets anyway, so I'll take the bet.
We don't have any bets right now. We can take the bet.
You want to take the bet? Whoever gets the lowest has to shave off their mustache.
You want to come for the king? You want to come for the draft challenge champion?
Lock it in.
Here I was feeding you info last night.
Lock it in. And also, you didn't submit your shit until the very last minute after everybody submitted theirs. Marcus said, Ray, are you going back to the TCU? Chill out, man. No, sir. No TCU wide receivers over here. I'm done. Nick Reed. Appreciate you, Nick. Superflex half PPR lineup, 10-team trade, future first late to move from 104 to 101. Got Hurt, Stack, Purdy, Pickett, but A-Rich could be at 104. Know your league mates. Would you move up, Jay? Would you trade a late first, future first, I guess 24, to move up from 104 to 101?
Probably not.
I probably would.
Who would you take?
Bijan Robinson, Anthony Richardson. I'd have the 101. And all I had to do was just move up.
I'd just see what the cost was to go up to 2 or 3. Because I'm assuming he's targeting quarterback. So to me, there's no reason to go up to 101 and pay the 101 price if you're not taking a quarterback. That's not a high price to me. That's not a high price to me. A late 24 first. You're only going from 104 though. 104 and a 24 first to 101.
Big difference between Bijan Robinson and Will Levis, or Anthony Richardson and Will Levis. Big difference for me. I wouldn't hate it.
You get Bryce Stroud or A-Rich, which I think, true. And for me, all those quarterbacks are fine, right? And maybe if you want to take Levis, you could. That's where I just don't necessarily want to pay that price, but especially if you're going quarterback, because quarterback's not going to go 1 more likely than not.
Does Gibbs and Sharps equal Bijan in a single quarterback league? Do you think Jahmyr Gibbs and Charbonnet equals Bijan production single quarterback? He's got 3 and 4, so probably in the same boat, man. If I can get Gibbs and Charbonnet, I would say
no.
I'd be fine with Gibbs and Sharp.
Are you getting Gibbs and Sharp?
That's what he's saying.
Or are you trading 103 and 104 for 101?
I think he's saying he would rather take Gibbs and Charbonnet at 3 and 4, and is that combination of those two players equal to what you get out of Bijan Robinson? I think so.
I would say no.
Production-wise,
I wouldn't want to run the risk.
Production-wise, I think so. Value-wise, maybe you can always argue that Bijan's more valuable than those
Just
two.
Because I want Gibbs, but I'm a little worried about Charbonnet because we don't know who RB3 is right now. We're pretty confident in Gibbs and his opportunity because he's projected to go in the first round now. But after that, I don't think we can say that Sharps is RB3, and that's where it gives me some pause. I would probably, if I was projecting today, it probably should be a wide receiver there.
Yeah, same. Okay, well, we're not going to go through the quarterbacks, Jay, because I guess we could talk about it. What right now, as you look across the NFL, right, there are so many fringe quarterback starters. I guess I want to call them when you think about long-term security at the quarterback position, there's probably like 10 guys that you can look at and be like, they're their team's locked-in starter for the next 3-4 years. I'm not even saying 10 years, 3 or 4 years. Outside of that, there's a lot of 1-year bets, a lot of 2-year bets, Jay. So we got 5 quarterbacks coming in that we project to be first-round picks with Hendon Hooker as that 5th quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Who are the ones that if you have rostered right now, it could go one or two ways. It can this week, tonight, because I think it's going to be tonight.
Has to be.
You're either going to be very happy, like, whoo, sigh of relief, we made it through, I got a quarterback for the season, or, oh, shit, I just lost a starter. And I'm just going to throw some names out there. You got Desmond Ridder, you've got Sam Howell, you've got whatever the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have and Baker Mayfield and those guys. The San Francisco 49ers, and it doesn't have to be a draft pick, but Could be a trade. There's rumors of Lamar Jackson. There's rumors of Kirk Cousins. You got the Brock Purdy's and the Trey Lances. Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee. I said Sam Howell. What do you think, Jay, as we leave this night, Thursday night, round one, if you had one of these quarterbacks, which one would you be like, I need to move them now? Before 8:30 tonight, I need to get off of this chair. Who would that quarterback be for you?
That's a tough question because honestly, I think whether you're a Jimmy Garoppolo, Ryan Tannehill quarterback that's on a 1-year deal, we don't project them beyond this year, or you're a Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, I'm actually willing to roll the dice on all those guys. I think holding through the draft is worth it. But the guy that I think if I had him, I would be most nervous about because I do see a lot of upside is actually Geno Smith. Geno Smith was a great quarterback last season, but there's still some concerns of a Hooker, of a Richardson potentially going there, and that would probably nuke his value. But if he survives the draft with no real competition at quarterback, while he's on a 1-year deal, there's no real incentive for Seattle to not bring him back if he's good again. So you may actually have a starter beyond just this year. And I think he's the only guy that I can confidently say that if he survives the draft, he could be a starter beyond this season, or at least compared to the other guys, will be good enough. Sam Howell could easily be replaced. Desmond Ridder could easily be replaced. Ryan Tannehill's probably going to be replaced. But Geno Smith, if he survives the draft, could be a viable starter beyond this season. He's one of the few guys I think we can say that about. I know we would say that kind of about Kirk Cousins, but we expect him to get another job elsewhere, whether he's on Minnesota or another team. Is there anybody that sticks out to you beyond my Geno Smith take on kind of if he survives the draft, what things could look like?
I'm not all the way here yet, but I just want to ask the question. The Green Bay Packers.
Oh boy.
I'm just asking.
You think they would?
I don't think so, but I don't think so. That's why I'm asking. I'm just throwing a name out there. I saw some people talking about they could be in a range where one of those quarterback. What if?
Can I say Mac Jones? Because I really wanted to say Mac Jones.
What if? And we all know everything. We fucking know everything.
We know it all.
What if CJ Stroud falls? What if JRich? You saw in some whose mock was it that JRich was at 19?
That was
Green
DJ's
Bay
yesterday.
Would Green Bay even consider a quarterback at 13?
I think they would consider it, but I don't think they have the balls to make that move. They've invested all this time, all these resources in Jordan Love to turn around and now be like, oh, well, we want JRich would be very surprising. But to your point, they only have Jordan Love for a year right now, and then they have to pick up his 5th-year option, which would give them 2 years
just
kind of locked in. So I don't think it's crazy because they're a team that drafts a guy, lets him sit, develop. So this is kind of around the time where a quarterback would be great because in 3 years he could start.
All right, let me give you a couple of other names. Let me give you a couple other teams. New England Patriots and Mac Jones.
Absolutely. A lot of reports are if the quarterbacks slip out of the top 10 past Philly, there could be a lot of interested teams, whether it's Minnesota, whether it's the Patriots and other potential options of teams that could trade up for an JRich, for a Stroud, for a Levis, kind of whoever falls. And it's just, do they survive that Atlanta? They probably survive Chicago, and then a potential trade up to Philly at 10 as well. Because teams will be looking to hop Tennessee. I could definitely see that, potentially.
Yeah, and as I look through it, I don't know if there are any other realistic round 1 spots that a quarterback could go outside of the names that we kind of know.
They're the dark horse, right? Because they want Lamar, they don't want Lamar. Are they in on a quarterback? I believe they had top 30 visits with all the quarterbacks, I think outside of Bryce and Stroud. But I believe they brought in JRich, and I'm pretty sure they also brought in Levis. Not to say they're going to trade up, but they're still, we haven't talked about the possibility, Ray, of Lamar Jackson getting traded. San Francisco's inquiring. Indy's been heavily rumored for Lamar. And I think that's the wild card is we got the Rodgers news. Do we get the Lamar news tonight and a massive trade that forces one of those not forces, but gets one of those rookie quarterbacks onto a new Baltimore Todd Monken run offense?
Do they trade him? Do they trade Lamar Jackson?
I don't think they trade at all or today. I want to see them trade him today.
Do we get the trade today?
I want to see it done.
Do we get the trade today?
I hope so. Ray, nothing would be more chaotic than a Lamar Jackson trade. And Ian Rappaport actually tweeted it out a few minutes ago. In the words of one GM, it's the most unpredictable draft in forever. Welcome to draft day. And it just, and like, we haven't talked about it at all, but the Lamar Jackson potential trade is still out there. Like, that's still a possibility with the number 4 pick on the block. All these things potentially happening.
That's who's on notice. Damn, Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. Those two, because it's Kirk Cousins, it's Lamar Jackson.
Could be Mac Jones.
One last one. That should have been the sign off. That was a good outro. I'm just throwing it out there, Jay. And they don't pick until 51, so I don't even know if there'd be one there.
Is it the Rams?
No, we're not doing it. The Rams are clearly collapsing for Caleb. There's the Rams. The Rams. I think they reported their thing, and they had like 44 players on their active roster. They don't have a long snapper. They only have one court. Yes, they are in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. Miami, they don't have enough capital to do it. But I do think, unlike most years, Jay, there's just no consensus, and I think that's what's going to make tonight fun. That's what's going to make and here's the thing, y'all. Because of the variance and the sort of we don't know what's going to happen, rookie drafts are going to be all over the place, at least for the first couple of weeks till things start to kind of normalize. But for those of you who draft immediately after, like I've got 5 or 6 rookie drafts that start Sunday morning, Jay, like right after, like no time to think. It's going to be all over the place. So make sure you're tapped into some people, whomever that is, that you trust, that you support, that you like, that you rock with. Because I think for a couple of weeks, shit's going to be wonky, man, until things start to stabilize, normalize a little bit. But it's going to be chaos tonight, and there's no better place to be than right here. I'm telling y'all, we are going to have a good time. This was us last year. We had a blast last year on our draft stream. It's going to be even better this year. Like I said, in my opinion, the best dynasty mind on the planet, Scott Connor, is going to be with us the entire time. Gene and Ike from Off the Line. JRich is, of course, going to be there in the bed with a bunch of candy. JB and other people from Destination Devy, and we may even have some other surprise guests jump on. So make sure you tap in with us at 7:30 Eastern Time. We're going to talk Best Ball Mania 4. We're probably going to do rookie drafts during it, talking dynasty theory, answering questions. If you've got trade questions, if you got questions about this and that, make sure you're there. Have those super chats flowing. We are going to have a damn good time tonight. So right now, me and Jay are going to get out of here. We got prep work to do. Hit the thumbs up button, like, and subscribe to the content before we get out of here. And don't worry, all you Kyle Pitts managers, he's going to be safe, despite JRich saying his value is going to be nuked. We love y'all. We'll see y'all later tonight. We out. Peace. Before y'all close off of the video, I just want to say thank you for checking out the content on Destination Devy. Really appreciate every single view that we get. And the only thing that I ask is that you hit the thumbs up button, like the content, subscribe to the channel, and if you can, comment below for the algorithm. Really helps the channel grow. Now, if you want more exclusive access to me and the entire Destination Devy team, patreon.com/allgas gives you that access. Now, if your money's a little funny, we do have free content for you. Make sure you subscribe to the All Gas newsletter. There's a link in the description of this video below. And subscribe to the Destination Devy podcast radio feed, where we got all types of shows hitting airwaves every single week. Now y'all can get out of here. I appreciate y'all tapping in. It's All Gas all the time. I love y'all. I'm out of this thing. Peace.